in this cold day.
Well, we see some people.
Half a dozen people there.
And therefore, we don't have any citizens. So we'll move on. The next one is approval of agenda. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
I make approval that we do the agenda. A motion to approve the agenda.
I second the motion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Anybody opposed? All right, we're good. And then we have the minutes from the last board meeting on November 16th. Is there any discussion on those? Questions, changes?
I had one question I didn't understand. Let me see if I could find it in here. I think it was under the cost recovery, which we'll be talking more about, but there was a sentence that said, like, costs associated with the expenses relating to the cost recovery are related to the program. So I wasn't quite sure what that sentence meant. Might just be typos, but it may be that I don't understand it anyway.
So I believe maybe the sentence is costs associated within the expenses relating to the cost recovery are related to the program. That seems to be a confusing sentence. Yes.
Yes. I won't worry too much about it since we're going to talk about cost recovery today, right?
Okay.
So I'll move that we accept the minutes.
All
I'll
right.
second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as is. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right. Next, we have activity reports.
As I normally try to do, just go through and highlight some key things for the month. We did move bleachers throughout the city that were associated with tennis courts, whether they be at Sunset Park or Jerry Ivy Park or Oakdale. We moved some of those bleachers to the new tennis facility on Kenwood Park Drive. And we also removed tennis court nets from those facilities at Oakdale Park so they can be used at the new tennis facility over the winter. Let's see, cemetery accomplishments. Staff finished and mounted the Charles Hyde Memorial sign, which I believe there is a picture of that sign on your packet. Under instructional therapeutic recreation, we are currently advertising and preparing to interview, probably in the new year, for a recreation supervisor position and hopefully a recreation leader position. And so we can start getting one of those positions on board so we can start some of that programming. Special events upcoming. I'm sorry, we've already had the mayor's Christmas party. That was December 11th. And we're preparing for New Year's Eve, which is December 31st. New Year's Eve is like a children or young family-based New Year's Eve celebration at Tony's Pizza Event Center. Christmas party at the Field House. I'm sorry, it was at Tony's Pizza Event Center. I think the attendance was around 300 to 350, similar to last year.
K-State decided to schedule their bowl game at the same date and time as our New Year's event, by the way. So.
Yeah. See, a field house, and I can let Travis talk about it in a little more detail if he wishes.
Sure.
Drop-in pickleball, volleyball, basketball, picking up at the field house, most likely, being based on the weather. Mm-hmm. South Middle School brings in a great group to use the field house as well. You'll see a paragraph that Travis has under his section about Nemaha sports construction. Started at Bill Burke. They've working on 4 of the 8 fields. And they were about ready to start pouring concrete and putting in under drainage recently. However, the weather somewhat stopped movement because of the cold temperatures. And we had some moisture prior to the cold weather starting. But that concession space, which I have several pictures in here for the concession space that our facilities maintenance division has been working on. It's about 70% completed. I don't think Troy's in here. But about 70% completed with that concession space. And lastly, our facilities maintenance, as I said, working on the concession area at Bill Burke, and also assisting assisting the installers for the playground at Lakewood Park. I'm not sure if Travis wants to add on more to what I added. I think he also has some reports to give for the indoor and outdoor tournament results as well. So I'll pass it on to Travis.
Yeah, I'll just touch on a few things. And then pertaining to the field house, we just finished it last night, but Gwen had 38 teams in our youth 3-on-3 basketball league. It's we call it organized chaos because that's what it is. It's a great league. It's a great recreational program for those kiddos. So I just wanted to mention that and give Gwen kudos that she deserves. The other thing was he mentioned pickleball. The drop-in has really picked up. I've noticed pickleball, basketball, drop-in volleyball. Those programs has really picked up, which is a good thing. One event that we did host, it was our first annual, is called Passage for Warriors. It was a fundraiser for the soldiers, and we want to make this an annual event. And it's important because I think it's one of those different events. We think of the field house of just sports and everything. What we've been focusing on here is filling in some weekends, maybe where sports are not occurring, but filling in those weekends with other alternate events or just different events. XWE wrestling comes to mind. It just brings different, people that maybe not use the field house. And so we've hosted several of those. This is another one. And I just, again, wanted to mention it and make it an annual event. It was on the same weekend this year as the Tony's Pizza Event Center. They had a big arts and crafts show, so we're going to try to correct that. And but I think we're going to make a run at this and just make it an annual event. It's just arts and crafts. Vendors come in and sell the products using the field house lobby there, and it was a good event. So wanted to mention. And then I also noticed I said hired a new ball field technician. His name is David Mayers, and I'll have him come in and sit on a meeting just to put a face with a name. So I'll do that in the future. And then we did lose a very talented young man, Brooks Ziegelmeyer. He decided a full ride to law school, and being single and everything, you go for it. So he's definitely being missed already. So good young man. So I want to thank him for his efforts. That's all I have on the field house. I can go into tournaments.
Yep. Please.
Okay. I'll go into, this is the time of year I try to gather everything for you, just to gather some field house and outdoor tournament results. That way we can kind of compare apples to apples or apples to oranges. I'll start with the outdoor this year. We totaled 530 teams total for outdoor tournaments on City of Salina facilities. So that's a pretty good number. And that's rebounding from last year, 2021. We did have 493, so we're up from there, which is good. And then the COVID year, we had 343. So as you can see, we're really on the uptick for a number of teams. And these reports, I'll try to catch trends and report to you. The trends that I'm seeing are we're having more competitive baseball tournaments. You can probably give that kudos to Dean Evans hosting those. We've hosted a few Mid-America baseball tournaments, and those are a good thing for the facility and the community. Again, still rebounding from COVID, but in the 2010s, I didn't go back that far, but the 2010s, we're in the 600s or so. A number of teams. So we're still down a little bit from the 2010s. The reports I'm getting are more surrounding communities have turf. You know, I've documented a couple of those that was their reasoning. Whether that's true or not, I can't sit here and tell you that. The other ones is the status of our restrooms is a big topic. So literally right now, we're trying to correct both of those too. And time will tell. You know, we'll get Bill Burke up and going this year, and the next, and here in 2 years, I can sit in front of you and show you the numbers. So, just wanted to pass that along. Is there any questions pertaining to outdoor tournaments?
No?
Okay, Larry. Any questions with outdoor? All right,
How about Denny? Any questions, Denny?
Denny's on there.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the field house. Again, same trend with the field house that we saw with outdoors. We're definitely up from 2020, which was our COVID year. We're up from 2021. 2021, I think I had that somewhere. We were at 249 teams. So now we're up to 372. So we're definitely on the uptick. Before COVID, we were at 514. So still a little short of where we were, kind of getting into our height a little bit. But we're working hard. We're getting different events, more events. And I believe we'll get back there. So, but we are getting there. Proud of staff with what staff we do have and what programs and tournaments we're able to run. We're working hard. Are there any questions with the Fieldhouse tournaments?
No?
So is the pickleball inside?
It is.
Yes.
Yes, it's the pickleball drop-in that we're having. Good group. They'll come in from noon to 2 or 1 to 3, and they call us in advance, really, and let us know so we can kind of set up a little bit ahead of time for them. Hit and miss. I think they're playing, YMCA, outdoors when they can, and in the field house they're utilizing a bunch of facilities.
How many courts are there?
We have 4 total. Mm-hmm. 2 of them is a little bit iffy because if we have the full turf down, then that takes away 2 courts from us. But we won't do that until about Marchish when it starts getting nice out a little bit too. So, but having those 4 works pretty well. They brought some Australian group in yesterday, and they're just a great group to have, just exposing youth. We had Smoky Valley home educators, their group, come in. We had some of our veteran pickleballers be the instructors and brought the kiddos in. That was a great thing. And then they're just exposing it to more of the seniors to play. And next thing I know, I see them coming in again. So great activity.
Thanks. You have questions?
That's it for me.
You're done? All right. Moving on to new business, the cost recovery summary results.
So as part of your packet, I promised you that I'd provide you with our program cost recovery results for the fall and winter program that started in 2021 and went into 2022, and then also spring of 2022 and summer of 22. And every year I try to put this before you, the board, to show you the results of some of those programs. I sorted them by activity area. So you'll see aquatics, athletics, camp, fieldhouse, Lakewood Discovery Center.
Could you pull up your sheet? Which one are you looking at?
It's a Excel spreadsheet,
Okay, yeah.
yes. And hopefully it's somewhat colored.
Yes.
Has some different alternating colors to show the different areas. And then rentals of facilities, special events, trips and tours, and lastly, youth instruction. This was different if for those of you that were on the board a year ago when I did this exercise. there's substantially more programs that I am showing you than previous. For several reasons. One was I did not include fall and winter of last year's because we really didn't have much of a fall and winter as we were coming out of that kind of a slower time, COVID time. Also, I did not include special events. So special events on the bottom, as you'll see, have a 0% cost recovery. The idea of special events is that it's a community event where we have an expense to serve as many people as possible in a public space for Halloween party, Christmas party. There are two programs that, in fact, do have a percentage of a cost recovery. One would be the Ties and Tiaras event, because we do charge a fee for that to cover a portion of the costs, mostly related to food. And then also for Easter egg hunt, we have a sponsor for that event. So the sponsor covers the cost of eggs and prizes, and that's Salina Noon Optimist Group, which are a great organization that supports a lot of our programming. I also promised you, which I don't have today, is a fee recommendation for 2023. These programs will have fee recommendations in January for you to approve. I'll include this sheet with that document in January at the January Advisory Board meeting. I was not able to accomplish that. Those fee recommendations come from the supervisor that's responsible for the program, and I was not able to capture that from them in a timely manner for this meeting. I got some of them, not all of them. And then if you recall, the cost recovery policy is generally anything under 10% is what we go for to reflect changes. But if there's any questions about what I'm presenting to you for the cost recovery summary for the programs that we've conducted the past year, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
I mean, I will know more next month, I know, but in some categories, there are some that are wildly successful, hundreds of % over, and some that are not quite there.
Right.
Do you kind of average them out, or do you look at each line, and if this is under 90 or something, then you...
It's as part of the cost recovery policy, there's a kind of a different, it's a pyramid of where the different programs lie on the pyramid, where at the top of the pyramid, it'd be something that's highly individualized program where we would want to capture 100% of that cost. Whereas on the bottom of that pyramid, that's where something like a special event would come in. So they lie within that threshold. So I think what I'm hearing you might be asking for is how these different programs relate to that pyramid.
Yes, so.
And I did not provide that, but I can provide that. The Lakewood programming, for example, some have high percentages of cost recovery, but as you can see, their participation is often low, and they might have a 1 instructor to 10 participants, but then their costs are very minimal, but the fees that they're collecting are pretty minimal as well, but it does reflect in a higher percentage of a cost recovery. The overall amount is 110%, which I believe is a very good number that we're overall of our programs that we've conducted for the past year are exceeding our expenses. Our fees that we're charging are exceeding our expenses as an overall for the programs that are shown right here. Last year, the percentage without having the additional programming was a little higher, is 118%. So I think it's not a whole lot far off from 110%. But I will update this form and add a column to show where these individual programs lie in that pyramid. I think Travis and I need to do a little work.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've gone that far to show to identify. Well, we have, but more in a summary type of look, not an individualized look.
Okay.
Thank you. But if there's other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I appreciate just knowing this type of information, being a new board member. Thanks.
Oh, we also have Bonnie here now.
Oh, Bonnie's there too. Great.
All right, we can move to the board member for the ECRA.
You want to take this or me? I'll start and you can finish. There is a board that is called the East Crawford Recreational Operations and Advisory Board, now,
Berkeley family.
which now will be called Berkeley Family Recreational Area. It's a board that was created for the operation of that area, primarily relating to the operation of Dean Evans Stadium. Previous advisory board, there's a requirement of that board that a Parks and Rec advisory board member sits on that board as a non-voting member. The individual that was on that before was Brad Dix. Brad Dix is no longer part of the Parks and Rec advisory board. So we were reaching out to you today and to see if anybody would express any interest in being part of that board. The board meets 4 times. Well, go ahead, Travis.
We used to meet weekly, then monthly. You know, as we were developing the board and Dean Evans, the renovations of it, now we meet quarterly. So January, we'll meet again. We'll like to meet maybe in May. I think it's right before the summer season really gets going. Then we'll meet in August, right after the summer season, and then somewhere in November to kind of close out the 2000 or that current year, because usually by early November we're pretty much off of Dean Evans Stadium. So right now, unless there's a special meeting or anything, right now we meet quarterly, 4 times a year.
What day of the week and time?
We've picked a Monday. A Monday during lunch hour or right before lunch hour, like at 11. We try not to interfere with work hours too much, but we will start at 11. Sometimes they'll go through the noon hour. Sometimes we're done. It just depends on the agenda. And again, there in the beginning, we had to discuss and make a lot of decisions. Those decisions have really, a lot of them been made through construction, operation, those type of things. Now it's just items that pop up similar to what you're sitting here. Just listen to items that's popped up in the community or issues that's popped up. So not too much of a burden, but if you have any interest, please let me know.
Denny raised his hand.
I would be interested in doing that.
Denny?
Yes.
Okay.
And Travis, would you go into a little more, maybe some detail about what the role and what the board discusses on typically, and what the role of Denny or whoever else might be?
Sure. Denny, it's a non-voting role, and then it's basically just to relay information back to this advisory board, to sit and listen or be an advocate. There are a few baseball enterprise members at the table, Kenny Hancock, Byron Tomlins, and then there's a member of Kansas Westland and USD 305 on the board, myself, and another city staff member. So like I said in the beginning, it was more so of the construction of Dean Evans with the renovations, and then we dove deep into the operations of fees, usage. We have a hierarchy who gets first priority, those type of things. That's all kind of gone through. The painful stuff has kind of gone through, but we do have items that do pop up. Hey, we recommend we get internet, or hey, we recommend this, we recommend that. We sit at the table and discuss those issues of if it could be funded, if there's another group that can be involved. So those type of items. Did you have any other questions?
I don't.
Okay.
The time frame fits me to where it would work.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Denny. Okay. Yep.
I will be reaching out to you, Denny. I'll get your contact information, and then and I'll send out Microsoft meeting reminders, so it's in your calendar, or you'll receive
Okay.
those.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, next is old business, Centennial Park Master Plan.
So last meeting, there was members of the Friends of the Centennial Park that presented during the Public Citizens Forum, and I wanted to provide some context to some of their comments about the Centennial Park plan that was included as part of the master plan. And you'll see the identified projects that were proposed from proposed as part of Centennial Park, and then a layout, if you will, or a conceptual drawing of what Centennial Park looks like. Thank you, Brett. And just want to make sure that you had the opportunity to see that. There was a few other, I did not provide it today, but there in the master plan, there's a handful of conceptual drawings that were provided. One of them was, for example, the tennis complex that is now completed or substantially completed at Kenwood Park. There was one for Bill Burke. So Centennial Park was one of the ones that were identified for a conceptual drawing and what could happen at the park. Just want to make sure you had that information and put some context to what the gentlemen that were up here last month that gave you.
So this was in your files already? You're just sharing it with us?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, when John Blanchard and David Diva Bliss were here last month, they did talk about this plan, and their request was to make some of these, well, I shouldn't speak for them. They intended on coming back, so I want to make sure you had this information, in the plan that they would come back.
So what I see is there's already a plan for a trail around it. I mean, I think that seemed to be the first thing they wanted to do.
Correct. There is a plan in there for a concrete trail. I'm not sure if it goes into detail of what kind of trail it was, but yes, there was a conceptual trail around the park.
So I was curious, apparently nobody uses the skate park anymore, or do people use it, or why are we taking it out?
That's, well, I wouldn't say that we're taking it out, but this was a conceptual drawing of what could happen from a master plan person who the city hired to put a plan together for us to follow. As you probably heard me say, the master plan, the first tenet of the master plan is to address deferred maintenance that we have across our system, which was approximately $6 million. And that's our first goal. Second goal was to start adding amenities to our park system. And the third goal was to start adding new. Some of the ideas that came out of the master plan was to move or relocate a skate park to another park and not have it at Centennial Park. I believe, and I shouldn't speak for the Friends of the Centennial Park Group, they do not want the skate park taken out of Centennial Park. So that, again, these are conceptual, these aren't actual construction plans. These are not something that we have funds for currently to move forward with. It was simply a conceptual drawing that was provided as part of the master plan.
Do you happen to know where they were going to move the skate park?
I believe the master plan calls out Kenwood Park, but that was with the understanding that we didn't have a tennis complex. That if there's identified space there, that could have been a home for the skate park, but now it's home for the tennis facility.
But of course, the tennis courts at Oakdale are not there anymore, so who knows? Okay, it's a little uncertain.
Yeah.
Denny raised his hand again.
Oh, well, I just remember one of the comments about the skateboard issue was that it's kind of like they don't build them like that anymore. It's kind of out of date, not in good shape. And then I know the pastor across the street from the skateboard park just liked the idea of keeping the skateboard park because of the fact that there's a lot of local area right there, kids that use it. Whereas if it was relocated someplace else, are the kids going to use it as much? That was just a comment.
That's right. It is in a heavily neighborhood area. It's easy to get to. It can be walked to, biked to. So those are some topics or some things we need to address or look at when we, for potential spaces.
Okay.
All right, the next one, park improvement project updates.
As I mentioned, Lakewood Playground. Lakewood Playground is the playground structure itself has been is erected. It's in the ground. However, we need to do some additional work to it to get it to be opened to the public. One of those items is the surfacing. Well, let me back up a minute. There's a concrete curb that needs to be created around the entire footprint. And then once the weather warms to a overnight temperature of 45 degrees or higher, a company from Kansas City will be coming in to do a pour-in-place surfacing, and that'll be similar to what you would see at Olivia's Playground. It's a rubberized textured surface that's about 3 to 4 inches thick, and it's a great playground surface. There's also a concrete sidewalk to connect the parking lot to that new playground, and that would need to be accomplished as well. We also need to, reseed some grass and, do some backfilling and some drainage around the area. We're planning on having a grand opening for that. If you were on the board at the time when this happened, we accepted a sponsorship and a donation to help make that happen from Great Plains Manufacturing. So we want to have a public grand opening for them, and they seem very interested in doing that. Last part of the project is a sign. They want an archway sign that would go over the sidewalk that would recognize Great Plains' contribution. So that's but it's a rather impressive playground. If you've not been over to Lakewood Park, it's tall. It seems rather adventurous. Bill Burke, as I mentioned earlier, they've got some great headway going for fields 2 and 4, 5, and 6. Turf has been ordered, so it should be here at the end of January. Looks like the weather next week will be improving after Christmas, so they can get back to doing under drainage for those 4 fields. And then it's anticipated by the construction company that by the end of January, they'll be moving soil out of fields 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 3, and 7 and 8. And so hopefully this cold snap does not put them too far out of their timeline. But we do appreciate them doing the kind of a phased approach of 4 fields and then the second 4 fields, because gives us a greater chance to have 4 fields to play on at the end of March. What other projects are there? Jerry Ivy Pond, we're getting ready to do a citizen survey in the month of January. We'll be advertising that to the community about what kind of opinions people might have about Jerry Ivy Pond. As part of that is some of the struggles of the current pond and some ideas of what they might want to see, whether it be a natural type of feature or something that's more of a fountain type feature.
Jeff, also at Jerry Ivy, are we doing the tennis courts or is that the school district?
The school district is doing those courts. The area around those tennis courts was deeded over to the school district for the purpose for them to put in tennis courts. The part of the deed requires them to provide courts that are available to the public. So there's going to be 4 courts that are available for public use at the public park and for the neighborhood. And then they're putting in additional 4 courts that are for school use. And I would anticipate that the 4 that for school use there might be locked, but the 4 that are for public use will be available to the public for recreational play and competitive play if that comes to that. Also, they're putting in a shelter house. They're putting in a shelter house similar to the shelter house that's at the new tennis center at Kenwood Park. And I believe, I have not seen it recently, but I was told yesterday that they're doing all kinds of dirt work over there, so.
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
I do miss all those trees that are over there.
Yeah, the trees along the trails at that,
Yeah.
yeah, the pine
I could
trees.
take those all out.
Yeah. That's all I had for a project update at this time. Oh, I'm sorry, I do not. I apologize. So also at Bill Burke, as Travis mentioned, and I mentioned as well, the concession stand is being remodeled, and I did provide some pictures in your packet of what it looks like as of last week. So the epoxy floor, that blue epoxy floor, which is rather outstanding, and the way it looks, was put in by the facilities maintenance superintendent's team, and they're doing stainless steel countertops. Cabinets are already in, and looking forward to the remainder of new overhead doors, new roof, and they're also doing electricity.
Umpire changing.
And the umpire changing room, one of the pictures I provided was the umpire changing room, and that is what is currently, some of that old paint was ground off so we can make sure we have a proper surface for epoxy to stick to, and new partitions in there and things like that. And then we'll be moving on to the south bathroom at Bill Burke and get that done before we open up for ball season at the end of March. Also, we have 2 new bathrooms being delivered for Bill Burke Park that are prefabricated, concrete bathroom units that will be also placed at Bill Burke Park as well. And that's all I had, I think, for project updates. Unless there's any questions about anything.
Any questions? No? All right, moving on to general
I
announcements.
think Bruce has a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
I just got kind of an off-ball question. Weren't you guys going to put some pollards or something like that over in Oakdale Park, around that maintenance building on that road?
Yes. they were, we had a change of leadership within our park superintendent retired in August. We recently rehired which you met last month, Dennis Arnold, our park superintendent. It is on his plate. I wouldn't call them bollards, they're more like planters, large concrete planters.
Okay, yeah.
And that will happen in the near future.
Okay, I was just kind of curious because I drove by there and I was thinking, I could have swore they was going to put something
Yeah.
there, to keep traffic out of there.
That's right. There'll be some signage that goes along with that. The signage will state, do you remember what it says, Brett?
Says something like authorized personnel only beyond this point or something like that.
And I believe the concrete planters are like 10 foot wide or 8 foot
Yeah,
wide, and
something
I think
like
they wanted to dress them up a little bit or put some wood on it to make it look a little more less concrete and more natural to the park. So I think they wanted to do some additional work to make it look nicer than what we're getting. But there was no cost to those. We already had those in our system. But we do want to put some treads on them to make them look a little nicer. But that is still a plan. Thank you, Bruce.
All right.
Not necessarily kind of related to us, but USD 305, if you haven't noticed, they're doing tremendous work over there at the South High softball fields, lights, press box, restrooms, that type of thing. So pretty much the home of the Acacia softball state tournament moving forward, you can probably say. So the city of Salina did not lose that tournament, but it just relocated to there, and then we've already picked up another tournament at Bill Burke Park on that same weekend. So I just wanted to relay that to you.
Yeah. Busy baseball weekend.
Chris Upson's been busy over there, by the way.
All right. Now we're ready for general announcements. Any others?
I have one just next, also in January. I'm required to do annual board training. So I have a presentation that I go through as much as possible. Plus, there is also a annual board report that the board members are supposed to contribute to. The past 2 years, I've basically taken all the minutes and kind of summarized the minutes into one report, and I would have you approve that or not approve that in January or February. So I just want to make sure give you some context of what's upcoming. That's all the general announcements I had,
All right.
unless the board members have something.
Anybody have any announcements? Not seeing anybody. I can't tell if he's poking to say something or not.
Yes,
Okay.
I tried to get on the internet on my computer here at the hotel, and that just ended up being a disaster. And then I finally got onto my phone, and I'm using my phone. But I just want to make a statement about, I appreciate Jeff for all he's doing of being organized, thorough, and very knowledgeable of, questions that are presented to him. I just think he does a great job of that.
I will be taking this recording of that and making sure it gets into the right hands.
Merry Christmas, Jeff.
I appreciate those comments, Denny, and I thank you very much.
I'll agree.
Yeah. We can end on that good note.
Yeah, I move we adjourn.
All right.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we adjourn for the year.
All right.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas to you.
Second it.
And I'll say aye.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. We're good to go.
Thank you.